normally everyone knows a DJ means a disc jockey, okay? But if you ask me, my definition for a DJ is a dancing jockey. What I mean by dancing jockey is that when you are there as a crowd, I make you dance, okay? When you say HJ is horse jockey or something like that, so why not a dancing jockey when you can make a person dance? He does is a magic. Not a magician, but he does is a magic. On these 10 fingers, he make the people dance. You know, when I say this, most of the people will be thinking, what is he talking? But it's just a small thing which we like to conclude. Like, okay, a DJ, he uses his 2 hands. And out of these 2 hands, he mixes music in such a way that the people are dancing. So I can say he's a magician doing his own tricks, with his own tricks, and making the people dance as a dancing jockey.
Can we have some noise? To the left, to the right, you gotta come back. At the telephone, everybody come back. Everybody come back.
With the faders of a mixer at his fingertips, DJ Akash can effortlessly make a crowd sway to his tune. Indeed, if the sound recordist is the Pied Piper, the mixer is his magic flute. It is the gadget with which he mesmerizes his audience by blending the individual strands of sound.
This piece of equipment here, as you can see, is a analog mixer. You have any idea what a mixer is, Atish?
Mixer is basically a piece of equipment that's required to route signals and record different signals. It can also serve the purpose of equalizing and adding several effects.
Exactly.
Mixers come in various sizes and degrees of complexity. But on close examination, we notice some common components in all mixers. Essentially, any mixer has a set of input channels and 2 output channels.
As you can see, it is a 40-channel mixer, and these are all patches of 8 channels, and there are 5 of them totally. This type of mixer, this type of analog mixer would be used in old days. Nowadays, we don't use such an elaborate setup. We generally use one analog to digital converter, which is fed to a computer, and we record.
The source of sound from other gadgets or created live are plugged into the input channels of the mixer. The processed sound is routed to the output channels, which are either connected to the amplifier and the speaker or to a recording device like the tape recorder.
But this here is a classic analog setup, meaning we have 2 analog recorders. These are 2 linear recorders which are not actually analog recorders, but they are actually linear tape recorders. Each of them are capable of recording 8 tracks each. So in a combination of 2, we have a 16-track recording capability. And over there is the computer, where you can also record in a non-linear fashion in a digital audio workstation. So both of these are connected with this mixer. This mixer is also connected to the speakers we are hearing through, also with the microphones that are catching the signals from the musicians who are sitting inside the floor, and also playing it back to the speaker. In between, it is recording the signal into the linear tape recorders or the non-linear digital audio workstation.
now study in detail the anatomy of one input channel. If the performer is singing or speaking into the microphone, the output of the microphone is plugged into the mixer's input channel. The connector used in this plug-in system is called the XLR connector. The mic in slot is also provided with a 48-volt phantom power to power the condenser microphone. If the performer plays an electric guitar or a synthesizer, or if the music comes from a cassette or CD player, the output is plugged into the line-in slot of the mixer. The connector used is called a phono connector. The input channel of the mixer has a gain control, an equalizer panel, the auxiliary knobs, a pre-fade listen button, and a fader. To understand the functioning of these knobs, let us hypothetically insert a mic-in signal in one input channel and a line-in signal in another channel. The output from a mic is very feeble, so the signal is given an initial boost by turning the initial gain control knob. A mic-in signal is also more likely to have some noise as well as some distortions. The signal can be cleaned of the noise, the distortions rectified, and the quality of the sound improved by the equalization panel.
Visible and invisible, but the main ones are visible.
The equalizer panel has different filters for different regions of the audible frequency range.
In which case should you use an equalizer? Now, as the term suggests, equalizer means equalizing, meaning to bring all the frequency at a certain level. So if you need to equalize, then what do you look for in the sound? If there is any lack in the sound in some frequency section, then you can boost and give that frequency section a little more body. We generally don't use the equalizer when we are recording signal. We generally use it when we mix.
If the high frequency knob is turned down, the high frequency hisses, etc. will be minimized. If the low frequency knob is turned down, low frequency rumble, etc. will be eliminated.
Your time will come. Your time will come. Birdman wants his money.
If the mid frequencies are boosted up, it will have what is known as the proximity effect. The singer and musician will appear to be very near to the listener. So the audio signal is cleaned and improved using the equalizer knobs.
Now you can switch in the equalizer in different fashion. You can either give it in the line in module, or you can switch it to monitor module. Now when you monitor it, what is happening? The input signal which is getting recorded in the tape is not getting affected, but the playback which is coming from the tape to the monitor fader is getting affected. Whereas when you switch this to the channel path, it will equalize the signal which is coming inside this mixer. So your signal which is getting recorded in the recorder will be equalized. There are 4 auxiliary out for this mixer. Generally, these auxiliaries are used to do what? Any idea?
To add separate effects to the incoming signal.
To send a certain amount of the incoming signal out to a signal processor. Now the signal processor we have here is a TC electronic multi-effects processor, meaning this can give you reverb, this can give you delay, this can give you compression, all the effects can be added, this can give chorus, this can be used as a flanger. So whichever effect you use, you send through the auxiliary to this auxiliary effects processor, and from here again we have assigned these faders 13 and 14 which are coming back to the mixer and getting mixed with the main mix.
Controlling pests of flowers.
Adding a simple reverb to our mic in signal will make it sound warmer.
What they are, the symptoms when
Before sending this processed signal to the output, we may like to listen what it sounds like.
So though there are many types of
On pressing the pre-fade listen button, the signal is routed to the monitor.
organisms.
Once we are satisfied of the outcome, we release the PFL button and send the signal to the output via the fader.
I'll take up each of these groups and explain.
Tada 1 2.
1 2 ta.
For a stereophonic output, there are 2 output channels, one for the left speaker and the other for the right speaker. This knob is called a pan pot. When the pan pot is at the center, the signal is equally divided between the 2 output channels. If you put the pan pot to the left, the entire sound signal will go to the left output channel and will be heard only in the left speaker. The faders are there for adjusting the level of the processed signal before feeding it to the output channel.
Check me out, this is only party.
When there is a musical accompaniment to a voice signal, the music should not overpower the voice. The faders may have to be constantly adjusted during the recording process. If there is a silent period in the voice signal, the music has to be boosted up. Before the end of the recording, the music has to be gradually faded to 0. In today's age of digital recording, the fader adjustment is done
You have to
digitally.
fade the part.
Anup Mukherjee
And also
says
fading
he
the-
still prefers playing with the faders manually.
It is still true, and we are doing still that. At least we people who are normally working for Dolby mix or maybe normal mono mix. Why we do is when your brain flows through your fingers, your feelings also comes through your faders.
Now next we come to these green pan pots which represent the fold back of the mixer. What is the fold back of a mixer? When we are communicating with the musicians who are recording music sitting inside the studio, we need to communicate with them, but at the same time when we do different recordings, the tracks should also be heard by the musicians, otherwise they won't be able to play. So these two knobs represent the left channel and the right channel of the headphone which the musicians are wearing. So we can give a separate mix for different musicians. We can actually, since there are two outputs coming from the fold back, we can give two separate mixes. So the upper knob, with the upper knob you can set up a different mix for example the drummer who is playing inside, and maybe for the guitarist you use another, guitarist and the rest of the band you can use another mix and send it to the other musicians.
Each output channel has a bus that picks up signals from all the input channels. What fraction of the signal will be routed to which output channel depends on the position of the pan pot. What will be the relative strength of the individual signals in any output channel depends on the position of the channel faders. Each output channel has its own fader that should be adjusted to an optimum level so that the overall recording level is neither too low nor crossing the threshold. Part of the output signal goes to the recording device and the other part goes to the speakers. In live mixing, the entire output goes to the speakers.
We are now inside the control room of our recording setup, and I have got the musician inside the recording booth. He is playing a flute. So we will be doing a simple session of how to record the flute. Now we can see at first we have to switch the phantom power on, since we are using a condenser microphone, and adjust the level, the input of the microphone, and adjust it to a proper level. Now comes the equalization section. We will see after we hear the sound if there is any equalization to be which will be needed during the recording. Now since we are recording the entire signal inside a digital audio workstation, we need not put any external processors. So all the auxiliaries are off and the pan is right in the middle, since we are doing a mono track. Now I assign the input to group number 1. Group 1 fader is up here, and we have to open a project in the digital audio workstation and start recording.
Having understood the operation of a basic mixer, let us see how a single tune gets processed digitally.
If we want to mix it, we have to put different effects and see what happens. Now we have the sound recorded here. I have put it in track number 2 in order to identify it separately. So this is the flute piece, and if we open the mixer inside the computer, we will see that the upper section in the mixer represents the equalization. The middle section represents the auxiliary outs, or we can assign different effects in this section, and the lower section we have mainly the pan, which will put the signal in its stereo position, and also the fader, which will control the ultimate volume. First, let us play the signal dry without any effects. Now, if we want this flute to be a little wet, let us try and put some reverb in it and see what is the difference. So, we have selected this effect, which is a non-linear reverb, and we have put a room reverb in it. So, let us see if we switch this on, what happens. So, the flute has a nice round reverb which does not let it end as soon as the flutist stops blowing. So, we have this effect which can put a little bit of sweetness in the sound. Let us try and put a little bit of delay also. We will put a little tap delay in it and see what happens if we kind of delay the sound. With auxiliary number 2, we have put the delay. We will switch this on and see what happens. So, this is basically a tap delay, which is, these are the taps. So, we can adjust the taps and make them closer, or we can take them further away, and we can edit the effect like we need this. What should be the distance between the taps? If you want to determine that, you will have to know the tempo of the song. Now, there are several effects like this delay, which is dependent on the tempo of the song. If we select a delay time which is somehow related to the tempo of the song, it will be much better. The delay effect will blend in with the music and with the song.
The basic stereo mixer outlined so far forms only half the story. Conventionally, popular music recording forms at least two distinct stages: the track laying phase and the mix phase. In the track laying phase, musical tracks are laid down on a multiple track tape recorder. Backing tracks and rhythm tracks are recorded first, followed by the vocals. In the mix down phase, all the previously recorded tracks in the tape recorder are played back through the mixer and combined into two tracks of the stereo. So, there are two signal paths. One is from the microphone or the line source to the multi-track tape recorder. This is called the channel path. And the other from the multi-track tape recorder back to the stereo mix. This is called the monitor path.
Now, the next knob, the yellow knob here, is basically a routing device. Now, what is routing? Why do you need routing? See here, these 4 blue faders are representing the groups coming out from the mixer. What are groups? Groups are basically channels which are connected from the mixer directly to the input of the recorder. Now, these groups, what happened to these groups? These groups are basically going out and getting connected to the input module of these recorders or the digital audio workstation. Now, for the purpose of convention, we will use these digital linear recorders, which were used in old days. These concepts have gone into the digital audio workstations, and now we have the different softwares coming which are actually representing this channel, this recording path.
It is not physically possible for a sound engineer to control 40 faders of a 40-track mixer. So input channels are grouped together and one fader controls the level of a number of channels. A collection of channels carrying drum sounds or carrying an orchestral string section would be examples of suitable groups.
Different mixers are made for different reasons. So this mixer that we have seen here is mainly meant for studio recording. There are other mixers as well, like location mixers, which are just small mixers which are operated by battery, and they are also very handy and they have very minimal functions. There are live mixers which have different configurations. There are other types of mixers like mixers which are used for broadcasting. With the advent of digital age, we have also seen the mixer getting converted into digital mixers. These digital mixers are also very compact in design and they are very much space saving and they have very high quality. There are several mixers which come with very high quality analog to digital converters. And subsequently the prices have also fallen. We have come to an age where mixers are probably becoming obsolete. But all the digital things which were developed were based on these concepts. So it's basically become much more easier and much more better in quality.
Any stereophonic mixer has a number of input channels and 2 output channels. The input signal from a microphone or a line source is processed by the input channel and fed to the monitor and the recorder via the output channel. If the number of input channels are large, those carrying similar sounds are grouped together and controlled by a single fader. In a multi-track recording process, the input channels are first routed to a multi-track tape recorder and then mixed down to 2 output tracks of the stereo. These days, much of the mixing and routing work is done digitally using an appropriate audio processing software.